Hey, it's Etienne de la Bouissy and Julie from the Art of Liberty Foundation. We're on the island of Roatan off the coast of Honduras at an impossibly cool place called Prospera. And so I don't usually do walk and talks, but this place is so interesting and so fascinating. There's so much to see. I thought I'd kind of tell you about it. And so Prospera is what I would call a startup city. It is a private city where a private company has negotiated a sovereignty with the government of Honduras where the rules and the regulations of Honduras do not apply to the 1,000 acres under Prospera's ownership. And so in this private city, what they've done is they are offering governance as a service to where companies and individuals that move here can enjoy one of the lowest effective tax rates in the world and can very easily start up businesses and entities that do not have to succumb to the rules and regulations of someplace like the United States or others that stifle innovation and cause business things. So where we are right now is we're at a kind of a residential condo building called Duna Residences, which is, I like to describe it as the kind of the Silicon Valley of Prospera. And so this is a kind of 14-story modern, condo building with retail and co-working and a coffee shop and a gymnasium and clinics and laboratory facilities for kind of knowledge workers that are working at many of the different startups, a lot of biotechnology startups, because you can completely avoid all of the regulations that stifle innovation in the United States. And so this is kind of like a co-working space, and I'll take you through, but I'll be kind of quiet because people are co-working. And so everything that the modern knowledge worker needs to be productive, from high-speed internet to lots of coffee and energy drinks and snacks and food, and you name it, it is here in Prospera. And so we're on the first floor. We're going to go down and we're going to take the stairs. And so this has been Julie and I's workout for the past 3 weeks that we've been here, and it's a 14-story building. We're on the 4th floor of the building, which is not actually the 4th floor because there's 3 levels of parking between us and the lobby. And so we're generally doing 8 or 7 flights of stairs a day, several times a day, as part of like our workout routine while we're on the island. But all the conveniences that you would want in a kind of modern condo are here. This is the largest residential building on the island of Roatan, and so very modern, very new, very convenient, very comfortable. We're about to bust out here into the lobby. And so we could have taken the elevator, but, very nice. This is the aforementioned gym that I mentioned. We've been getting our fitness on most days. Everything that you would want in a gym. Great, amazing sauna. Really cool sauna. This is the Infinita Clinic. And so one of the primary tenants here in the building is Infinita City, which is a VC-backed, I'd call it, you could call it a network society. You could call it a VC-funded accelerator for biotechnology startups. But they have taken a lot of the building for their labs, and they're doing human longevity work, and they're sponsoring and accelerating a number of biotech startups that would face, really difficult rules and regulations if they were doing it in the United States or in Europe. And so there's companies from around the world that, instead of, for drug development or gene therapy or whatever it is, it might take 10 to 11 years, in the United States under that regulatory scheme. They can get it done in a year. Doesn't mean that there's not safety standards. Doesn't mean that there's not, that these companies aren't adhering to world-class, safety standards. It just means that they're not having to deal with the bureaucracy and the red tape of the United States. Now, we're about to cross the street into what's known as the Beta District, and so one of the issues in doing business in Honduras, and one of the reasons that they call it the Beta District, is when they first built on the island, it was a beta, and so they had the idea for this, startup city, but they didn't really understand if Honduras was going to keep their side of the bargain, and so when they built out, they call it the Beta because when they built it out, they did not know if it was going to be stolen by the government of Honduras. And so that hasn't happened yet. But, just to kind of give you an idea of like a little bit of what's going on here, they built their own factory. And so a lot of the building materials and a lot of, what you see that came out of here, they've got a modern, robotic enhanced facility where they're doing a lot of the cutting, a lot of the woodwork. They're making everything from furniture to, a lot of the things. They're doing it in-house. They've created over 3,000 jobs on the island through the construction of the various buildings and the various facilities that you're seeing behind you. And they've their workers have typically better wages than the average worker in Honduras. They have their own security. They have their own kind of everything. And they've been able to do that because they've been able to bring in over $150 million of investment to turn this place into this modern, high-tech, thriving little kind of mini city. And so it's 1,000 acres. There's about 600 on the island of Roatan. There's another 400 on the mainland of Honduras. And this the building behind you is what I would kind of call Silicon Valley. The island, on the island on the mainland, there's 400 acres that I would call Shenzhen, or a place for factories and for labor-intensive, businesses where they need to be bringing in raw materials to a port facility that they control, where they need to be, not having to pay extra to ship stuff to the island of Roatan. And so that's kind of like the difference. We're kind of walking past now what are the company's facilities. And so the companies, and there's a little kitty cat. So there's the company's offices are here, and we'll walk through the offices, which we kind of do on a regular basis. But generally they've got meetings going on, and they've got all kinds of stuff. The place is quite hopping. In the past kind of month and a half, there have been 2 different conferences that were here. There was a freedom-oriented conference led by Max Borders. I think it was called the Charter Cities Conference. We just kind of missed it when we arrived. There's Isaac, who runs the restaurant here. And then there was a longevity conference. And then Meet the Drapers, which is kind of like a Shark Tank kind of investment show, came and showcased some of the startup companies that are are being incubated here at Prospera. It's a cool little naming brand thing right now, right there. So as we go down the beach, you're like, well, what's the downside? Well, it sounds like paradise. It's only got a 5% income tax rate. Corporations pay an extra 1%. And by the way, the only reason that they pay the extra 1% is so that they're not classified as a tax haven. It would be even lower if the governments of the world didn't have regulations against tax havens, so they have to charge the 1%. And there's a 2.5% retail sales tax. And so that is kind of a little bit of what they're doing. This area here, they're actually growing. This is some of the employees, where they've given the employees kind of land to work with, and they're beautifying it, and some of the employees are raising stuff here. I don't know if it's for money or whatever it is, but it's just kind of spectacularly beautiful to see the lush vegetation. It was actually raining today. It's only rained 2 times the entire kind of 3.5 weeks that we've been here. But you're just getting a feel of what it looks like, and the vegetation and the fruits, and there's fruit falling off of the trees, and just absolutely beautiful. Now, one of the other things that's kind of interesting is Roatan is a happening spot, and so it is an island. It's about 43 miles long, and between 1 and 4 miles at the widest point, or the kind of the width of the island is between 1 and 4 miles, and it has one of the most beautiful barrier reefs on the planet, and the second largest barrier reef after the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. And so the reef is literally right offshore, on the west end of the island, where all the resorts are. You can just swim out. It's probably not even 35 yards away. Here's some chickens that are roaming the property. It's kind of cool. And so you can kind of swim out to it and snorkel. We set off some fish bombs one day, where you take a bag of fish food that is in a airtight bag, and you walk out and you swim out to where the reef is, and then once you break that open, you're surrounded by dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of fish, and they're like having a feeding frenzy all around you. It's really quite amazing. The reef in this area is probably 100 to 250 yards offshore. You can see that we've now kind of walked down to the beach. There's a kayak there. There's people working. One of my buddies is a local. His name's Connor. Super cool. And his fins and mask one day to go snorkeling. Told me where there was a shipwreck. And so I swam out to the shipwreck. Got in trouble with Julie because I did it by myself. She got all worried about me. But essentially, you can almost kind of see the shipwreck, offshore over there. There's some local kids. If you were to go, and you can just kind of see it in the distance, there's a town called Crawfish Rock, which is the kind of the local community. I understand that Prospera employs about 75% of the local community. So like I said, they've created 3,000 jobs. And a lot of people in the area are working for Prospera, and so we're now kind of walking on the beach, and so we're leaving Silicon Valley, and we're headed towards what I would call the Naples of Prospera, which is a world-class resort called Pristine Bay that has got a scuba shop, scuba boats for rent. A Bitcoin center. This is a very crypto Bitcoin friendly thing. You can pay for. You saw the Bitcoin machine in the lobby. You can pay for anything at the co-working space in Infinita Cities. ICC coin. it is crypto friendly, regulation friendly, beautiful. It's got everything going on for it. In Naples, there is a world-class resort with a hotel. There are villas that can be rented, and there's private homes where it's not just, expats and people dodging, that don't want to be tax farmed by their Western governments. It's also successful Hondurans and others living together in peace and prosperity. And so you can get to Pristine Bay from walking, but you don't really want to. There's the public beaches are great, but there's these little creatures called sand fleas that are just vicious. So we're gonna kind of like walk quickly to take you through to get there, just because it's the quickest way to actually get there. But the kind of the thing to know, and I guess the thing I wanted to kind of talk about in this section is, well, if it's so amazing, what's the downside? Why isn't everyone doing it? And the problem has been the local government. So when they originally passed the ZA law, I want to say in like 2014, but I could be wrong with that, and they negotiated the deal. They had a very business-friendly government, and that business-friendly government, wanted to see Prospera succeed. They wanted to see outside investment come in. They wanted to create jobs. But in the interim, that business-friendly government has been replaced by a commie government, and that commie government essentially doesn't want to see Prospera succeed. And what I believe, and this is just my own personal opinion, but I don't think that, a communist social government wants to see an example of free market innovation and see the free market succeed with a effective tax rate of 5% versus their tax rate of up to 25%. Plus, I think the VAT is 10%, and I forget what the capital gains is, and there's just all these taxes and rules and regulations in Prospera. And so it's not just that the government of Honduras wants it to die. All the commie governments want it to die, and they actually had there was a conference. I forget the group that sponsored it, but essentially Venezuela and Cuba and China all showed up to discuss how to get rid of Prospera so that there wouldn't be a laboratory of liberty. There wouldn't be a place that you could test these ideas. There wouldn't be something that showed how failed socialism is, where people want to vote with their feet and leave places that have high taxation, and leave places that have onerous bureaucracies, and leave places that have state-funded monopolies, and leave places that are kind of bad for business and bad for the people, right? Because this is creating 3,000 jobs. That's probably, I guarantee you, the government of Honduras hasn't done that except by stealing money from people and redistributing it. They're not, their policies aren't getting people to flock to Honduras. And the Lampara, the official currency here, is just absolutely worthless. I think it's 4.5. They're worth about 4.5 cents to the Lampara. So 100 Lampara note is $4.50. It's that bad of a currency. And so this beach is absolutely amazing. It's unkept. We find conch shells. So I've been to lots and lots of different beaches, but I've never been to a beach where on a regular basis there's just so many conch shells washed up on shore. The natives throw them up against the trees, and you'll find just piles and piles of conch shells. We were snorkeling the other day. And at a place called Little French Key, and the place where I was snorkeling, there was a field of hundreds and hundreds of live conches, to where you could pick them up and you could see that they had, little creatures living inside them. And so So just amazing, natural beauty, amazing natural resources here. The only thing that's stifling it and keeping it down is the commie government that is trying to wipe out Prospera. And so what that's done is that's kept a lot of capital sitting on the sidelines, where people that would invest in Prospera would move their companies here, would relocate their businesses, would move here themselves. Some of them have been sitting on the sidelines saying, hey, I don't want to get my everything nationalized. I don't want to have my wealth stolen. And so I've heard, estimates of almost $1 billion is sitting on the sideline waiting for the government of Honduras to change, which it may, because there's elections coming up this year, and there's pro-business candidates that are much more friendly to the economic prosperity that Prospera is bringing than the dirty, filthy, stinking communists. And so it's amazing how that the communists are shooting themselves in the foot just because they don't want to succeed, an alternative succeed. They don't want there to be a laboratory of liberty. They don't want there to be free market innovation. They don't want there to be modern companies and knowledge workers, bringing jobs. They would just rather, they'd rather have the status quo. They don't want people pointing out that they're unable to deliver the same prosperity that is being created here. And so that's just kind of like one of the objects one of the things that's going on now, because this is such like a wonderful tourist destination. One of the kind of magic things is number one, well, everybody in Roatan speaks English, and so all the locals, they all speak English. So it's a great place to do business. They seem to have a great work ethic. Everybody seems that I've met has a smile on their face. So the local population is fantastic. Something else that's going on is I lost my train of thought. Well, there's a lot of volunteerism going on the island. Julie just reminded me. So most of the time I've been locked up in my condo or in the co-working space working on my book, Volunteerism, and a new book that I've got coming out that wasn't intended to be a book, but I spent most of the days staring at a laptop screen. But on the weekends, we've been going out, and this past weekend, we met a really cool native, Cesar Gonzalez, who is an attorney and a man of letters here on the island. I've been jokingly calling him the mayor of Roatan, because he seems to know every single person on the island. And him and his beautiful wife Margarita took us to a local music festival that was mostly expats. So hundreds of expats. There was food, there was, dancing, there were multiple, U.S. and European rock bands. There were local Honduran artists and everything, and it was a fundraiser for the local hospital. And so I don't know how much they raised, but it had to have been thousands and thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of dollars for kind of the local charities on the island. And so that was one of the things that that we really enjoyed. Probably it was the kind of highlight of the trip from kind of like a tourism standpoint. So far. And then our friend Caesar and Margarita took us to their private island called Lime Key, which was also absolutely amazing. And so that was kind of cool, just to give you a view of kind of what it's like as I'm going by. Just amazing lush vegetation. And so as I mentioned, we're going in between the Silicon Valley of Prospera to the Naples of Prospera. And so This is kind of this is not the usual way that you get here. The usual way you get here is they run a shuttle. So there's a shuttle that goes between the Duna residences and Pristine Bay, kind of every hour on the hour. Some days when they have a lot of things going on here, I think it's like every 30 minutes. You can jump on a shuttle and you can be at Pristine Bay. But since we're doing the walk and talk, I didn't know, when it was going to be. So, we talked about the money, or we talked about all of the capital that's been sitting on the sidelines. And so the plan for, the Duna area is not just to have one 14-story tower, but it's actually to have five towers, 5 different towers. And that's been kind of kept, again, on the sidelines by this political instability run by the government. Also, the government is doing everything that they can to try and sabotage the project, to the point where Prospera has an $11 billion lawsuit against the government to have them cease and desist because they're violating the terms of the original agreement. And so they've been doing things like, having them unbanked by the local banking infrastructure. They've been doing things like they're supposed to be handling all of their own customs. The government's violating that. The government's trying to tax one of their buildings. So they have just a whole bunch of crazy, obstacles to success, that if it wasn't for that, and all that might be changing. And so that's your ground floor investment opportunity. This place would boom like Hong Kong. And really, if you know the secret or the story of Hong Kong, one of the reasons that Hong Kong is Hong Kong, and right across, right next to Hong Kong is an area of China that has about 1/10 of the average annual income, 1/10 of the wealth and the prosperity. And so why did Hong Kong boom? Well, the reason is that they had a British governor that was pro-free market. And during the early days of Hong Kong, he essentially stamped out any vestiges of socialism, any rules and regulations that the government was trying to foist on Hong Kong, the British government at the time. And he kept Hong Kong free trade, free market, pro-business. And that's one of the reasons why Hong Kong flourished, while, just, a little bit away, the exact same people speaking the exact same language are languishing in poverty under the rules and the regulations of China. And so it really is almost the exact same dynamic is going on here as was going on, in Hong Kong during the flourishing of Hong Kong. And so now we're getting to Pristine Bay. So we're coming up on the dock. You can see some dive boats. Like I said, scuba diving and snorkeling is the thing to do here. And so lots of pleasure craft and lots of people coming and going. There's a I don't want to say huge, but it's got to be dozens and dozens and dozens, if not 100+ private homes. That's just a guesstimate. I haven't really understood how many private residences here, but the closest, and you'll get to see it here in a second, but the closest I've been describing is it's the Naples. It's like the Naples of Roatan or of Prospera. And so that's kind of like the architectural and the vibe and the feel that I would describe. So now we're here. Welcome to Pristine Bay. And so, world-class resort, world-class amenities, jet skis, catamarans, scuba diving. This is the local scuba shop. that we're approaching. This is where the kiddies play. There's a trampoline out there. It's just a blast. You know, trampoline around. Their scuba shop is called the Home of the Deep Thinker. And really, it is deep thinkers here. And so it is kind of the economically literate. It is, you know, people like that are here. I was really impressed by, you know, Infinita City and their co-working space has a library. And in that library, they've got Murray Rothbard and David Friedman and F.A. Hayek and Ludwig von Mises and Ayn Rand and the economics of everyday life. And it really is like, you know, like free market thinking, free marketeers. You know, we're kind of at the end of the day, so there doesn't seem to be too many people kind of laying out like right now. You can see one of the, that's either a private home or a private villa kind of in the background. I'm not sure kind of which one, but we're going to take you up through the resort itself. But if we kept going further down the beach, you would get to a private beach where kind of the residents of Pristine Bay, that's where they go. This area is kind of like for the tourists, but the locals have their own beautiful, you know, kind of private beach. But the tourists have this beautiful place. So I kind of wish I'd brought y'all in the middle of the day so you could see, you know, what it's like when it's hopping. But we're kind of at the tail end here. So come into the kiddie pool area. There's the slide, and there's the club above. Cabanas. So, what's the business model? Like, how does Prospera make money? Well, they make money a couple different ways. Number one is people from around the world come here to stay at this world-class resort. So this is an income generator for them. But really what the play is can they deliver a better government for less cost than all of the competing governments in the world? And if they're able to deliver a better government at a less cost, then they make money. And if the money that they make outstrips their costs of providing the security and the dispute resolution and the insurance and the amenities and the, you know, everything, then they turn a profit. If it doesn't, then they don't. And so it is, you know, truly kind of free market. And so they own they own this land, and so they'll sell you some of it, they'll rent you some of it, and the more businesses and the more people that move here and the more diverse economy that they're able to generate, the higher value of that land the land becomes, and the more they can earn in rents for providing a better government to kind of all of the people that locate their businesses here. There's another sauna right here for the resort. And so that's really, you know, the business model. The other aspects are, you know, you're paying your taxes. 5% is an individual or a corporation, an additional 1% for the corporation, and a 2.5% retail sales tax. And so they're earning that. And there might be some other, you know, income centers that I'm forgetting. But, you know, that's the basics of it, is can they deliver government as a service better and cheaper than existing governments? And so now we're kind of in the club area. There's a restaurant that I won't take you in, but you know, beautiful, just gorgeous, gorgeous facility. Okay. So now we're kind of busting out the front door. I'm not going to go too much longer because you've been so generous with your time so far, but I did want you to see, you know, kind of the rest of the club. I mentioned there. I think I mentioned there's an 18-hole Pete Dye golf course on the property. There is the dome. I might take you down to the dome. That's where they had the Meet the Drapers kind of Shark Tank experience. You can see some of the homes and the villas in the distance. We'll go down to the dome and then I'll cut y'all loose. There's a pristine academy. They have their own Montessori school here. They have their own driving range. It's a double-story driving range, kind of like a Top Golf, where you aim at little islands in the water. Super, super duper cool. We went there the other day and played some billiards and some foosball in that part of the facility. That's the academy. So, you know, all of the amenities of home, everything that you would want, whether you're, you know, here part-time working on your business, or whether you're just kind of like vacationing. I mentioned that there's a lot of conferences and people are coming here. They're bringing their conferences here. They're bringing, you know, the Drapers, Meet the Drapers. Tim Draper, one of the best-known venture capitalists in the world, said that this was the best place in the world to do business and to start a business because of the favorable economic climate and the favorable, you know, climate of you know, beautiful weather and beautiful, you know, beautiful beaches and scenery and English speaking. This is the Infinita Dome, and so the Startup Society has got a, you know, kind of a little bit of a dome dynamic. It's all the lights are out, so I'll just kind of leave it at that. But that's it. That's Prospera and a little bit of Infinita City, and fascinating place. If you want to support it, you can do so as a tourist. You can do so as an investor. You can move your business here. It's a laboratory of liberty. We're showing that you can have governance without government, and that you get better outcomes by letting the free market provide your governance than by letting monopoly governments provide your governments. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. It's been a pleasure.